This is fucking nuts.
This
dude.
is so crazy. We are so not qualified to do this.
No.
That's what's interesting about this. We're just not. We just should not be doing this.
Well, we're too far too gone.
Here we have the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. He's about to walk into the podcast right now. This is probably one of the most, if not the most controversial podcast we
For sure the most
have
we've
ever done.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe not the most controversial we'll ever do.
Maybe not.
But
maybe though.
I mean, this issue is just like, and by the way, I want to say too, I'm not claiming to be an expert on this issue or anything like that. I've kind of just probably like a lot of you guys that, you know, you read stuff online. And I feel like on the internet now too, it's like, you don't even know what's real anymore. Like you read shit and it's like, you see a headline and it's like, is this true? Is this not true? So I see so much stuff about, you know, what's going on in Israel and, you know, Iran and Palestine. And to be honest, I just really don't know what is going on there. So it's going to be interesting to sit down with Prime Minister Netanyahu and kind of just ask him some questions about what we read online and
get educated.
Probably going to be a lot of hate in the comments and stuff like that. In my opinion, I mean, dude,
we're journalists, right?
We're we're technically journalists.
How can you pass up this opportunity at the end of the day?
No, and plus, at the end of the day, it's like we get the opportunity to sit down with one of the most powerful people in the world, a world leader.
Yeah.
And we get to ask him some stuff, and we're going to ask him what we want to ask him too. So if you guys, you know, want to hear shit, whatever questions you guys want to hear, there's probably a ton of other interviews of him on CNN or like, you know, typical news stuff. We're going to ask him what we want to ask him. So to me, this is crazy. Like how far we've come and we're get to sit down with world leaders.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane. So
yeah. I mean, for any backlash, this is just an opportunity, again, you can't really pass up. I don't see it. Like, there's no one else doing this.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. I'll sit down with any world leader in the world.
I agree.
I mean, my dream guest is Kim Jong-un.
Both
so
of
Kim
ours.
Jong-un, if you're watching this,
this is kind of like
to come to North Korea and interview you.
All I
as
could think about is the interview when we're doing
I'm so down to pull up to Moscow and interview Putin too.
Yeah, we'll do everybody.
This is what sets off podcasts. You could put a small microphone here, but no, you have to see this thing, right?
Yeah. Prime Minister Netanyahu with us today. We're here in the Blair House.
Yep.
Right? Is this the White House grounds? Close.
It's the sort of the official guest house of the United States.
How have you seen like the White House and stuff? Like how has it evolved over the years, over the times of you visiting it?
I've met quite a few of the American presidents because I've been in office pretty long time. Not because we don't have elections, but because I've won quite a few of them, okay? I think there's never been a friend like Donald Trump in the White House for Israel. I think he's a remarkable leader. I think he's changing history. He said he'll make America great again. He's already done it. You know, America is widely admired now around the world. And especially after our joint operation against this regime that wanted to, you know, chance death to America, death to Israel. Well, I think together we've shown the world a different face of America. Very powerful, very directed, very resolute.
You guys are very tight, right? Would you call it a bromance?
Well, you might. I mean, we've known each other several decades, and you know, I really like him.
What do you like most about him?
You know, if you meet him close up, and Sarah and I have had this opportunity many times, including last night in a great dinner we had at the White House. First of all, Donald Trump can be very funny.
Of course.
Know? He can be very funny.
Especially off camera, right?
He can split you sort of sit there and you start guffawing because it's so funny. And also, I'll tell you something else. That Sarah, who's a psychologist, and she, psychologists, psychologists?
Of course.
They look at people. They identify very quickly with that. You know what she said to me about Donald Trump? She said, he's a good person. He has a good heart. He wants to do good. And that is something that I think that you have to know him well to appreciate it. And the last thing I tell you about him, okay? I mean, I could tell you many things, but he cuts to the chase. He cuts through the BS. I have to spell out what BS is. He cuts through the BS. He goes right to the point, to the heart of the matter. And sometimes he says things that get right to things that people don't want to really think through. And he cuts to the bone. And that is an amazing quality because it lets you focus on the things that are important. So it's been an incredible partnership, both personally, but also for our two nations.
Did you have any type of relationship with Biden?
Not the same. I've known Biden for, 40 years? Almost as long. Well, both of them. Over the decades, it was a different relationship. It was a friendship, but also it evolved into, how shall I say this? Severe disagreements.
Mm.
And with Donald Trump, we've had powerful agreements. And where there's no daylight between an American president and an Israeli prime minister, amazing things can happen. Like our common enemies who chant death to Israel, death to America, and want to develop atomic bombs and the means to deliver them to this city and to every part of America. All of a sudden, they're not so intimidating. All of a sudden, we can defeat them. All of a sudden, you can use these brave American pilots who come from around the world, drop it right over the bunker, and help us end the amazing feats of our soldiers and pilots. That's an amazing thing. It's good for America. It's good for the security of every single American.
How do you feel about the Americans' opinion on Israel right now?
Well, look, I think the broad segments of the American public support Israel, but I'm concerned that the young people in America, some of them are getting the wrong picture of Israel, vilification, demonization. You can feed them a lot of lies. So the only way you can fight lies is with the truth. How do you fight lies? You tell the truth. And you have to tell it as often and as, intensely as the lies that are leveled against you. And that requires an effort. It's like another battlefield, you know?
Mm.
And I'm doing this podcast, among other things, to reach young people.
Of course.
You guys are pretty young. I mean,
30 years old.
30.
30.
That's young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think the biggest misconceptions are about Israel?
Well, first of all, they don't know what kind of an open society it is, how pluralistic. I mean, we live in the heart of the Middle East, okay? Iran is not that far away. In Iran, they hang gays by cranes. In Israel, probably Tel Aviv is one of the, the most open, liberal-minded city on earth. Israel is a high.
We visited there, yeah.
No, it's completely different.
Our assistant's gay too. He had a good time.
Well, you can vouch.
Yeah, no, we all had a good time.
Look at that. How about women? Okay. Women in Iran, they shoot the women. They shot this extraordinarily brave and beautiful woman, shot on the sidewalk because she showed too much hair. In Israel, women are, you know what women, I'll tell you what the difference is, okay? So I had this young woman officer in my military secretariat. The prime minister has military secretariat and usually has a general and it has staff assistants. One of the staff assistants was this young woman pilot, navigator, on leave from the Air Force to do this work in the Prime Minister's office. You know what she did now? She was flying over the skies of Tehran, attacking this horrible regime that tyrannizes the women in Tehran. That's the difference. The women there get shot on the sidewalk, and an Israeli woman pilot helps liberate Iran, quite the women of Iran. And boy, that's a big difference. And that's true of everything. It's true of nightlife. It's true of the startup nation, the incredible ingenuity and entrepreneurship, incredible freedom. Israel is a paragon of freedom in an area that doesn't exactly enjoy freedom. And to have young Americans march and support these mass rapists, these people who beheaded men, who burned babies alive. I'm talking about the Hamas monsters. Is that their ideal? They don't know nothing. I mean, they don't know what they're talking about. And I want to bring that truth to them. So Israel is a great free society and the best partner that America has anywhere on earth.
Great people there for sure. When we visited, everyone was so welcoming and people were inviting us over for dinner and stuff. But I see, that's the thing too. I'm not claiming to be an expert too, but I'll just read stuff on X and people will say Israel's killing babies or they're starving people.
That's completely false. In fact, the reason we have civilian casualties in Gaza is because Hamas, who are basically horrible murderers and killers, okay, committed to our destruction and your destruction. They say so openly. I mean, they say the big enemy, the real enemy, the great Satan is America. And Israel is the small Satan. But it's a small Satan that is standing in their way of conquering with other Iranian proxies, conquering the Middle East, and then we move on to you. So America is the great Satan, and America, needs to disappear. And we stand in their way. But one of the things you have to understand is Gaza is the densest urban environment you can find, and Hamas embeds itself in the civilian population of Gaza, the Palestinians, okay? We tell the Palestinians, hey, leave, because after they butchered us and raped our women and beheaded our men and burned our babies, we have to remove this threat. So we come in to take care of the Hamas terrorists. But the Hamas terrorists don't leave the civilian neighborhoods. And we say to the civilians, we call them up because we have their telephone numbers. We say, leave, please leave. We send them leaflets, millions of leaflets, please leave. We do everything that is possible that no army has done. They want to leave. You know what Hamas does? They shoot them. You say, we want you to stay because we want to have civilian casualties, because then they can show it on CNN or all these other networks and so on and claim that Israel is deliberately doing this. We're not deliberately doing anything. We'd like them to leave. And in fact, successively during the war, it's been now a year and a half, they finally do leave, most of them. So we've minimized those casualties, but it's not because we seek to have civilian casualties, it's because Hamas wants them. They're willing to sacrifice their own children, their own families, both because they don't really care for human life, but also because they think it's very good propaganda against us. And if they just let them leave the war zone, get to the safe parts, safe havens that we've created in Gaza, no one would be hurt. And the minute Hamas lays down its arms, surrenders, maybe we let them leave Gaza, that's the end of the war. No one gets hurt.
What would your message be to Palestinians that just want to have like a peaceful life?
Get rid of Hamas. Help us get rid of Hamas. They torment you. They oppress you. They shoot you in the back of the head. If you want to leave the war zone, they kill you. And if you say a word in protest, they'll kill you. If you're gay, you're in bad shape, really bad shape. And if you are a woman, you're chattel, you're nothing. Your property. That's the opposite of everything we believe in. I say, it's not only Israel, it's you. So we're the same.
How do you respond to, I'd say there's a lot of American support from the females, from the gays towards Palestine. So how does that make any sense?
That's, gays for Gaza is like chickens for KFC. I mean, that's insane. The whole thing is absurd. Chickens for KFC, right? Gays for Gaza, or women for the women of Gaza. What are you talking about? They're completely subjugated. They've got this death cult that is contaminated. So you can push this stuff on TikTok or whatever on the stuff, but you can't build peace or security on the rocks. They'll crash. I mean, these things will crash on the rocks of Middle Eastern realities. You can only build peace on truth and reality, not on deliberate, falsified fantasy.
Why do they say Israel's like starving the people of Gaza?
Well, because we're trying to get the food in, and we let food trucks in, and guess what happens when we let them in? Hamas steals the food, takes the good chunk for itself, then sells at inflated prices. They jack up the prices, and then they sell the food to its population, to its hungry population, if they give them at all. And then use the money that they take from their own people to recruit more killers into their terror machine. That's what happens.
Why are more Palestinians not siding with Israel against Hamas then?
Well, up to now they've been terrorized, but guess what's happened? Since we're beating Hamas, all of a sudden we see Palestinians rising. You have to see this to believe this, okay? And they say to Hamas, hey, you're not coming into my building. You can't use my school or this hospital as your command post. We're not letting you. And they start fighting them. Now we have actually armed conflict between Palestinians and terrorists. It was unimaginable a year and a half ago. But now there are Palestinians who rise up. And, the more the better, because we can create a different future for Gaza. And we should also do something very simple that President Trump said, and it was brilliant. So that's my idea. That's how he cuts to the chase. He says, at the end of this war, the people of Gaza should have the choice. If they want to leave for other countries, they want a freedom of choice. Why are they locked in? Hell, we're not locking them in. Anybody could leave, but Hamas is locking them in. Suppose they want to leave. They want to go to another country, okay? Why shouldn't they have the freedom of choice to do that? Because this is all upside down, The victim of this horrible terrorism is called the aggressor. The people who are oppressed by Hamas are seen as supporting Hamas. Give them a choice. Give them freedom. Give them a life and give them a future. They can't have that with these Hamas stormtroopers. But the amazing thing is, I come here and I see these protests. The people who are protesting for Hamas and against Israel, they burn American flags. They not only burn the flag of Israel, they burn American flags. They're anti-American. They're not MAGA. They're not supporters. Who do they support? You know who they support? They support Iran and its proxy, Hamas or Hezbollah. What does Iran do? Just understand, people who support Iran or speak on its behalf. Iran tried to assassinate President Trump, not once, but twice.
They were behind those assassination attempts?
They openly admit. By the way, they put out a price on his head, on mine too, by the way, smaller price. I'm not offended.
They actually put a price on your head?
Yeah, 2 days ago.
Do you know what it is?
Yeah, it's smaller than his, naturally. He's the president of the United States, for God's sake, okay? So they put out a fatwa 2 days ago, or 3 days ago, by the official cleric of the Iranian regime that President Trump has to be assassinated and that I have to be assassinated. And by the way, they targeted Sarah, my wife, was here, and they targeted our bedroom window. Yeah, we were supposed to be there. They hit through their proxy Hezbollah. They fired a drone right into our bedroom window. So
just recently?
Oh yeah, it was a couple of months ago. Yeah.
Wow.
No, it was a year ago, actually. Yeah, a year ago. Okay. So how many months?
7 months.
7 months ago. She counts, So they tried to assassinate President Trump twice. They've killed and injured thousands of Americans in Iraq and Afghanistan. They bombed American embassies. They murdered 241 Marines in Beirut. They chant death to America, death to Israel. They're out to get America. They were building atomic bombs and intercontinental ballistic missiles. That's their plan to reach America. So do you want these mad Ayatollahs to have that power? Of course not. So they're anti-American, they're anti-Israel. And the guys who protest, and many of them are paid and organized by foreign NGOs, bad people. They're out against America. They hate Israel because they see Israel as part of America. And in many ways, they're right.
I'm just trying to figure it out too, because even in New York City, right? What's Zoran?
Yeah.
He's an anti-Semitic guy.
Yeah.
The highest, I think the highest population of Jews in New York City. How's that even possible?
Well, it's possible because a lot of people have been taken in by this nonsense. I mean, what? You want to defund the police? You want to have people go into stores and, rob them and be free? You think that really creates a good society? You want to crush all enterprise? You want to tax people to death? I mean, that's a one-term effort. But, sometimes you have to get mugged by reality to understand how stupid that is. So that's silly. But, sometimes folly overtakes human affairs for a while, but not for long because reality steps in. So I'm obviously not happy with it, but I'm less concerned with it because I think if we can speak the truth to the young people of America, they wise up pretty quickly.
Is the war with Iran, is it over now? After President Trump did authorize the strike and they destroyed the nuclear program. Was
Well, it
that
certainly
like,
helped. It did, but I'll tell you what happened. You know, we were like a person with 2 lumps of cancer, okay, that threatened our life. The first one's the nuclear cancer. Would have taken them another year. Within a year, they would have had atomic bombs, which they openly declared in the tyrants of Tehran. They said, we're going to destroy Israel, the Jewish state. The other threat that we had, another lump of cancer, was these ballistic missiles. Now, you got to understand, this is like a bus. So with a ton of TNT, okay, explosives, comes down at Mach 8, and boom, just destroys everything in sight. Israel is the size of New Jersey, okay? So it's bigger than Rhode Island, but that's about it, you know? It's the size of New Jersey. Now, you imagine that you would have 20,000 of these ballistic missiles, these 1-ton bombs on New Jersey. So you either get destroyed by atomic bombs or by thousands and thousands of these deadly ballistic missiles.
so you think there's still a threat and they want to?
Well, we had to act.
Yeah.
Why did we have to act? Because if you don't remove the cancer, you're going to be dead. Now, if you remove it, as we did, it might come back. That happens in cancer too. But if you don't remove it, you're not going to be there. So we had to act. We did act. And just with incredibly brave soldiers.
But is there a chance of peace with this current regime?
Not with the regime, but with the Iranian people. And I think they've had enough. 80% of them want to throw these theological thugs out. They're just, intimidated by secret police that has, that just shoots them. But I think that there's a chance that the Iranian people will actually rise up. Because, everybody talks about regime change and they envision, the American army and the Israeli, the IDF forces invading Iran, boots on the ground and all that other nonsense that people spewed forth. No, we took action to remove those 2 life-threatening threats, the nuclear threat and the ballistic missile threat, and we removed it. We pushed it away for many years. But ultimately, it's up to the people of Iran to rise up against their tormentors. And I think there's a possibility it will happen. And then we could have peace. We had peace with Iran before that. Before the Ayatollahs took over, in 1979, we had direct flights between Tel Aviv and Iran. We're 2 ancient peoples. We had a great partnership over many years. We have a common history together. And it's sort of interrupted by this thuggery. But when this regime goes down, you're going to see peace between us like you never believed it.
That'd be nice. Because, I think one thing Americans don't want to see is everyone has post-traumatic stress from, trying to do regime change in Iraq and the past Middle Eastern wars.
Why do it? That doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It has to come from within the people. And the people are, they're great people. The Iranian people are great people. I sometimes do these podcasts to them. It's not a podcast. I mean, I do I do a video. Okay. So 3-4 minutes, I tell them that we would happily cooperate with them, solve their water crisis. Israel has the best water management in the world. We could give it. They don't have water in Iran, even though they have. They don't have electricity, even though they swim in oil. Because it's so corrupt and so badly managed. So I give these podcasts. You know what I see? Millions and millions and millions of views. And the first time they showed me this, I said, no, it can't be. I said, no, Prime Minister, look. I mean, you got, 15 million views. I mean, the whole population of Iran is
they're watching, right?
90 million. So I said, oh, wow, that's amazing. You know what the amazing thing is? They have names. The people identify themselves. So you understand, in a tyranny like this, if people speak out, they really want, what they want? Freedom. They want their freedom. They have, they have this slogan. Well, it's women, freedom. The women want to be free. The men want to be free. And Israel wants them to be free. And I think America wants them to be free. But it's up to them. Ultimately, it's up to them. And I think they're getting closer and closer to the day when this horrific regime disappears. That'll be good for America. So it's not conquest. It's not American boots on the ground. For God's sake, everybody said World War III, remember? If the president enters, you got these experts, paid experts, silly experts. America, World War III, It's war between China and America, and you have to invade Iran and all that nonsense. Hell no. I mean, very brave and persistent pilots. They go in, drop this thing in the bunker, come back. Not a single American casualty. And by the way, not a single Israeli casualty. Our brave pilots flying over the skies of Tehran. Nothing.
How did President Trump let you know about that mission?
You ever hear of phone calls?
So what, but he just called you up and said, Prime Minister,
I don't think
we're bringing in the B-2s?
I don't think it was an open line, But, we have these great conversations. We're very open with each other. And he said it's like a team that has never happened before. And I can categorically vouch that having worked with successive American presidents, I've never seen anything like it. And it's trust, it's affinity, it's understanding that, we're fighting for a greater purpose and that we can do so very intelligently and very differently from the way that is being portrayed in the media. And we just had proof. All these guys, they're sitting there. Yeah, if President Trump is foolish enough to do this, it's going to start World War III. It's going to embroil America in another Vietnam. You heard this stuff? You remember this?
Mm-hmm.
This is yesterday. They talked about it with such authority and seeming expertise. That's all nonsense.
Yeah.
It just turns out to be nonsense, pure, utter nonsense. And the president had the temerity and the leadership to disavow these so-called experts and do the right thing, and to do it with great resolution, great clarity, and with great transparency between us. You don't have to tell the Iranians, but we tell each other.
Do you have any type of relationship with Kim Jong-un?
No.
Nothing?
No.
Just interesting.
No, the answer is no.
I think you definitely have a tough job, but why do you think you're so hated worldwide?
Well, a lot of propaganda. First of all, I'm not hated worldwide. I just received this. I just talked to someone, a rabbi, and he says he just heard from his brother, who was in Europe, okay, and one of the countries of Europe, and he says that he's being flooded. They know he's from Israel. All the people are coming and they say, "You did this amazing thing for all of us," okay. The Chancellor of Germany said Israel did the work for all of us, the new Chancellor of Germany, okay? I hear, they had the G7. The president told me they were all going crazy, in a positive way. Because we liberated them, because those Iranian missiles were geared at Europe too, and ultimately at America, with nuclear warheads. So we had the guts to do this. And, the propaganda is there. I don't deny it. But people also have, sometimes the truth beckons. And what Israel did with President Trump is safeguard free societies from a menace. This Iranian regime hangs gays from cranes, shoots women on the sidewalk for not covering their hair, oppresses their people, spreads terrorism worldwide, kills Americans wholesale, tries to murder the American president, the former Secretary of State, the former National Security Advisor. So people's heads, if people are turned that way, the question you have to ask is not why do they hate me or President Trump, is why don't they see reality? Why don't they see what's good for them? And the answer is most of them do if you tell them the facts. But how do you tell them the facts over TikTok? You guys are there. You tell me, what's the suggestion? You got any ideas for me?
I don't think it's the Iran thing. The main thing I just see is if I don't think people if civilians are getting injured or killed.
We don't want it either.
Yeah. Well, I think the other issue too is you see there's a lot more Palestinian protests. You don't see very many Israeli protests. So you're going to see that on TikTok.
It's organized, it's systemic, but it doesn't make it true. So what? Yeah, you have it. But what are they protesting for? Look, most of the Arab world has made peace with Israel. We've had 4 historic peace accords, You know, people said you can never have peace because the Palestinians, you first have to solve the Palestinian issue. Well, the Palestinians have been fighting us for 100 years before there was even a state of Israel. And they're not fighting for a state. They don't want a state next to Israel. They want a state instead of Israel. And they teach their children that the greatest duty is to murder as many Jews as they want. The so-called moderates in the other branch, not Hamas, the moderates that are described as such, they pay for slay. The more Jews you kill, the more they pay the murderers. I mean, that's a death
Which
cult.
is crazy, yeah. Some of the anti-Semitism I see is pretty nuts.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm an American Jew, and it's hard to identify as that.
I
You
understand.
almost
the
don't even
problem.
want to own it.
But I think we just changed history. I see American Jews are very proud now. Jews around the world are very proud because these guys were out to murder us and do another Holocaust. You know, the Holocaust, the Nazis murdered 6 million Jews. There are now 7 million Jews, close to 8 million Jews in Israel. They want to murder all of us, and they say so. And all of a sudden, unlike the Holocaust 80 years ago, we were completely defenseless, and they butchered us. Now we're not defenseless, but we are targeting them. And even though we have to fight the vilification that is happening in America too, ultimately, people join winners. That's what happens. People join winners. And we stand up strong and we're proud. And
Yep.
American Jews and the friends of Israel who are not Jews stand proud with us too. And I wouldn't be intimidated by these protesters. I think I don't think they know what they're talking about, they're just totally ignorant.
What would you say? You're the longest standing prime minister in Israel's history. What would you say is your greatest accomplishment and your biggest regret?
My greatest accomplishment is what I set out to do 40 years ago. Right after the rise of the so-called Islamic Republic of Iran, I said, this is the greatest danger facing Israel in the world. Because if this fanatic anti-American, anti-Israeli regime gets nuclear weapons, we will be in mortal danger. So I devoted decades of my life to try to prevent them from getting it. And I think one of the achievements that we have is we push back this great danger, again, with full partnership with President Trump and the United States of America. I'm very proud of that. And the other thing I did was I liberated the Israeli economy. It was a semi-socialist economy, on the kind that this candidate for New York, it's not a good idea, Like we had a very low GDP per capita, and we weren't a first world nation. Okay, everything was tied. You had bureaucrats, controlling everything, depriving initiative, enterprise, and so on. And I, as prime minister and for some time as finance minister, I just liberated the economy. I just did all these reforms that allowed people to set up their own business. You have a business right now?
Mm-hmm.
Are you regulated?
Yes.
You are? Why are you regulated? You're regulated? By what? You should have the freedom to say whatever you want, to talk whatever you want. I didn't realize there's regulation on podcasts. Is that right?
Not anymore. Actually, since President Trump won,
Oh, good.
we've noticed all the social medias have been a lot more pro-free speech.
Yeah, all right. So I'm for free markets, the marketplace of goods, services, ideas. You have to have the freedom to have your ideas. This is what we have in Israel. Boy, do we have it in abundance. But that's fine. That's what I like. I like competition. I like initiative. I like freedom. I like freedom because I think living without freedom is not worth it. And think of, young people are watching me now. Think that every move that you make, every decision you'd like to make is made by others. You remember? That's when you're little kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have the nanny state. You have the nanny that tells you what you can do, what you can't do. Not a good idea, right? That's not the kind of life you want. That's not the kind of life we have in Israel. It's a robust, free, pluralistic society compared to the darkness of Iran, the darkness of Hamas. Gays for Gaza, chickens for KFC, women for the women of Gaza. God Almighty! I
Yeah,
mean, this
gays
is
for
ridiculous.
Gaza is crazy.
No, but women for Gaza is crazy too, because you know what the women in Gaza are? They're property. They're nothing. They have no rights. They're completely subjugated, and God forbid if they're executed any time they commit a so-called offense. I mean, it's absurd. So young people who say they're progressives, people who talk about liberty, and they join with these killers and they buy these lies, and they say, good is bad and bad is good. You know what they say in the Bible? Have they no eyes to see? Have no ears to hear? Can they be that blind? And the answer, yeah, for a while, but I guess I'll wise up.
The second part of that question, what would you say is your biggest regret?
Well, my biggest regret is that, that my wife and my two boys have to suffer the slings and arrows, of public life. So I chose this life. I didn't know I'd get to be prime minister, but I chose public life. But when Sarah married me, she didn't choose this. She didn't know where it would end up. My boys were born into it, more or less, and they get a lot of flack, a lot of vilification, a lot of character assassination. That is something I regret, but it's part of the journey, and it's a very painful one, frankly. What I regret in terms of conduct? I became prime minister at a fairly young age, and then in Israel. I was 46. And, the first term, I was booted out after the first term. They put tons of money in there with foreign NGOs.
Yeah.
I spent the first 3 years in which I was prime minister basically totally on the job, and so did Sarah. And we sort of neglected our boys. And having been thrown out of office, I came back, first as finance minister, but then 10 years later, I became prime minister again. And since then, I don't know, I won 5 elections. I can't keep track. But I have to get reelected. People say, oh, baby, you're a king. I say, I'm not a king. King doesn't have to get reelected. I do. I'm a Democrat, small d. I believe that the people have to choose who leads them. No one else. Okay, so second time I'm elected, Sarah told me, let's not repeat the mistake. Our boys are going to be with us for a few more years, and let's devote family time, You know what family time is? I'm telling this to you. Maybe you have the same thing. Maybe you have young families. You will have. She said, Friday night, Shabbat dinner, and lunch, nothing. No phones, no cell phones. Get rid of them. Okay. Can you imagine sitting around the table, not having cell phones? Yeah, it's a good idea. I tried sometime. Okay.
It's refreshing, right?
Yeah. And, we actually have family time for a limited time. My younger boy, who's, he's an Oxford graduate, but he was he was a great student of the Bible at a very early age. So we'd read a portion of the Bible, which is always relevant. It's a very good book, by the way. I strongly recommend it. I don't know if people still read it, but it's a great book. So up to the age of 12, I was teaching him. Okay, from the age of 12, he was teaching me. And this was family time. And it's because my wife had it's just the wisdom to give us those years that otherwise would go forever,
What's one thing you and President Trump have in common? Like something like specific, like a hobby, or like something you both like, or like a food?
Hamburgers.
McDonald's?
Hamburgers. So President Trump comes to Israel. It's a great visit, wonderful visit. Okay. And then we have dinner. Okay. And we bring this chef, he's like a very good chef. And he gives a 7-course dinner. I'm telling you, 7 courses. It's the longest dinner I've ever had. And, in this fancy plate, and this fancy plate, and this fancy plate. And finally he brings up this dressed up hamburger. And I look at Trump and he looks at me. finally we had what we wanted. We got the hamburger, you know. So yeah, I was a junk food junkie for many years. Sarah and I would come. We didn't have. You remember, Israel was semi-socialist, so we didn't even have a McDonald's or a Burger King. Okay, and we'd land on an occasional visit to New York. You know what the first thing we did? McDonald's, and to be honest, Burger King. I like Burger King more.
What's your go-to at McDonald's?
No, I'll tell you, Burger King. We did the double,
Whopper?
The double,
I haven't ripped Burger King in a long time.
Burger King kind of sucks.
Yeah.
No,
The
you're wrong.
BK Lounge can hit.
I disagree completely.
You like Burger King over McDonald's?
That's your worst take, I think.
Absolutely.
That's a crazy take.
No, that was fine. I mean, I like Burger King. The answer is yes. And we'd go and have Burger King. And guess what happened? So I opened up the Israeli economy, right? And what do you think we had? McDonald's, Burger King's, burger that, burger this. And the bloom went off the rose. And how did I know? Because we'd go for we'd go for the lot, the shakes, the French fries, the burgers. I mean, this is a massive attack on your health. Never mind. Okay.
No, it's bad for
we
you.
stopped gorging on this, and we sort of moved away from it. So I remember that. But President Trump apparently still likes this stuff.
It's what all he eats.
We rode on his plane before the election because we were doing the same thing with him.
McDonald's
And yeah,
or-
McDonald's.
I think it
Yeah.
was McDonald's lunch,
Chick-fil-A.
dinner.
You ever tried Chick-fil-A?
Chick-fil-A is good,
It's
actually.
good, right?
Yeah, Chick-fil-A is
The
good.
Chick-fil-A sauce.
I don't remember that. I mean,
Dip the waffle fries in it.
I think I went for the Chick-fil-A. Can you get me some? Yeah. Can you get me some tomorrow?
Sure.
No, I'm in this protein diet,
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I was until
Until you saw President Trump, right?
no, I'll tell you what happened. I can't divulge what happened in the meeting. It was great, but so he says he calls his aide. Bring me the stuff. You know what he brings in? Chocolate, candy. I said, Donald, what are you doing? Because I've been now for months off this sugar thing. And he says, this is good stuff. That's Donald Trump. He's a human being, He's a natural, wonderful guy. He's a warm person. And he's got vilification the way we all do. They paint a picture. You think the people who are hearing me now, you think they know me? Not well, they do, through you. The two of you, you're opening it up. But I'm just telling you that what do we have in common? Well, we like to spend time with each other.
Yeah, you guys seem like you have a good time.
Yeah, we do. We really
Chilling with Biden must have been boring.
Next.
Obama was probably a good time though too. No,
Well, he was, I think, look.
I don't agree with everything he did, but Obama's still cool.
Look, first of all, Obama was,
Like he has aura. You know what that means?
yeah, I do. And he had it. And I don't disclaim that he had great talents, but we had different view of the world,
Mhm.
I mean, he was a very talented and gifted person. And I don't think he was a weak person. I don't think that at all. But I think he had ideas that I didn't always share, to put it mildly. And the question is, what is the general direction that you take? Okay. And I thought that making sure that Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons was something that was absolutely essential. And he viewed it differently. He thought that, through accommodation, that he would stop them. And I don't think he did. I mean, he made a deal that basically paved their way with gold to a nuclear arsenal. So we disagreed. And it wasn't easy for me to make a decision that I made in 2015. That's 10 years ago. And I went to the U.S. Congress, joint session of Congress, to speak out against this deal that a sitting president was advancing. And that's not something that you do lightheartedly. I did it because I thought the fate of my country was at stake. I thought we could be annihilated by the Iranians with a nuclear deal would essentially pave their way to nuclear weapons. So I had to do it. And I did it. But it's not for lack of respect. It's for disagreement. It's because of disagreement. And, people can disagree. And in politics, you often compromise.
I think that there's still a lot of gray area, like with your average American, on what actually happened on October 7th, how it happened, why the response took so long.
Well, what happened was that at 6:29 in the morning, several thousand of these Hamas murderers crossed the fence from Gaza into the neighboring communities and butchered everything in sight. And the biggest butchery took place in one kibbutz that I visited recently. And it's horrible. I mean, they went into the houses, they shot the children, they shot the babies, shot the families, old people, Holocaust survivors, you name it. And the other thing that they did was there was a music festival that lasted through the night in the open areas, okay, near Gaza. Young people, came to have a music festival in nature. And these killers came there and they just sprayed the whole place. They murdered these young women and young men. And there were acts of heroism there that were amazing. Some of the people saved people, came back to save people. They themselves were mowed down. But there was acts of carnage that were so cruel that it's impossible to imagine, but also acts of courage that are amazing. So that's what you had there. That's how it started.
Yeah.
And then, how long did it take to get in there? We're still investigating why it took so long. Why don't we just have attack helicopters right there? We have a pretty good idea now, but that's going to be investigated fully.
What's your response to people that say it could have been prevented?
I agree with them. Completely. And it was just horrible. And the other thing that happened was they took 255 people hostage. I mean, we're talking about grandmothers and their grandchildren. We're talking about people they killed. They took their bodies so they can, they could trade these bodies. I mean, they took young girls and young men, and it's horrible. And on the first day, senior defense officials said to him, on the first day of the war, right? He said, we have to get used to the idea that we're not going to get any of these hostages out alive. And I thought differently. I said, no, we're going to get them all. Because if we have, our military force, great courage of our soldiers, and the diplomatic effort that will combine with it, we're going to get them out. So up to date, we got, of 255, we got 205 out, 147 of them alive, and the rest are recovered bodies. Some of them we got out with heroic rescue efforts by our, just went in there into Hamas territory, and these fantastic, brave soldiers, they got them out. And now we have 20 left. 20 are alive, and 30 that are not alive. And I'm going to get them all. And we may have a deal we're working on right now to try to get half of them, 10, alive, and more than half of the sea sausages right away. And I'm committed to getting all of them out. I believe in this. I didn't believe for a second that we wouldn't get anyone alive. We've got nearly all of them, but I want all of them. All of them. The dead and the living.
What's that negotiation like? Like, why do they let some out and then they're still holding on to some?
Because they think that, we'll, that's their security blanket, These innocent people that have been kidnapped. I mean, kidnapped. They kidnapped these innocent children, They kidnapped these women, and these grandmothers. And they put them in the dungeons, these underground dungeons in Gaza. And some of these young people are tall, like they're 6'4". They can't stand up for months. They can't stand up because the tunnels are lower. And there's nothing. There's no daylight. There's nothing. Just imagine this unbelievable thing,
I couldn't imagine.
You've seen the retaliation too. So what's your message to why? Because a lot of Americans don't think we should support Israel at all.
That means you don't support America. Because for the terrorists, you know what the terrorists are fighting us? Because they say we're America and America is Israel. We have the same free societies, the same free values. They want to drive us back to the dark ages of this tyranny. And Americans who say that, I think, basically say, okay, so you support those who chant death to America, those who want to eliminate America. That's crazy. Oh boy. This is
Nice espresso?
This is service.
Yeah.
This is service. Yeah, it's very
That's what we
good.
do on the Full Sun Pod.
Thanks.
You were a soldier yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
How long did you serve?
I served for 5 years.
What was that like?
What was it like? I was in a special unit, and like our special forces, like your Navy SEALs, it's like that's the best thing that I could describe. What was it like? First of all, it was demanding. I was spent a few years in the United States in high school, so I figured, it's a good time to prepare. So I ran, I swam, I lifted weights. I said, yeah, I'm ready. Okay. Boy, was I wrong. I wasn't ready. It's not only the physical demands, but also the psychological demands of stress that you're put into.
The training's crazy, right?
Yeah, the training's very hard, but very soon, we did crazy things. And some of them were, we had the first hijackings of Israeli planes from Lebanon, actually, from PLO that was ensconced in Lebanon. So as a very young soldier, we landed in Beirut airport, like in the movies, we were told to wear red berets. I thought that was ridiculous. Very theatrical. But we landed in Beirut airport and took care of the planes. We didn't kill anyone, but we blew up the planes. And we said to Lebanon, if you hijack our planes, we're going to blow up your planes. Didn't kill anyone. It was like a textbook operation. And then we went into a lot of these things. But when you're young, and I was 18, you think that this is cost free. But one of the first things that happened to me was that one of my close friends came from what you would call a disadvantaged home. He was a brilliant student. He was put into a great school. He was a mathematician and an athlete. And we became very close friends. And after a certain operation, he died in my arms. It's not an easy thing when, somebody dies in your arms. And so you go through that. What was it like? On the whole, it was a great preparation for life. I became an officer and led many operations behind enemy lines. So it teaches you, one, that you can do many things that seemingly are possible, but two, also to recognize that, at least I did, that life isn't a series of military operations. It's more complicated. It's not, you can't control everything. And you have to sometimes go with the flow. But the most important thing I found is to live a life of purpose. You have a purpose in life. You have a cause. You have something that you think is greater than yourself. Live that life. And don't forget your family. Have a life of purpose and, don't forget your family. And in my case, my family was also my older brother, who was also an officer in my unit, ultimately became its commander. And he led the rescue team in probably the most celebrated rescue of hostages in modern history. That's the rescue of 103 Israelis in Entebbe, Uganda. Like it was thousands of kilometers away. When I was a soldier, when I was an officer, the PLO hijacked a Belgian airplane, Sabine airplane, landed it in Tel Aviv airport, and said, unless you release these killers, we're going to blow up the whole plane full of Israeli passengers. And my unit was selected to do something about it. We had a defense minister. His name is Moshe Dayan. I don't know if you remember him. He had he had a one-eyed patch. He had a patch. He was a very charismatic figure, and he negotiated with the terrorists in the plane, and they said, they want to fly out to a destination of their choice. They'll let the passengers go, and we'll fill the plane with these jailed terrorists. And while he was negotiating, we were practicing how to use pistols, in order to penetrate the airplane, but not kill everybody. Because if you use submachine guns, everybody would be dead. Now, who the hell used pistols? They're totally useless. What do you need them for? They don't have firepower. You don't really do that. You have assault rifles, you have submachine guns, but you don't use pistols. Anyway, we practiced on pistols. And we put them in our boots. We wore mechanics overall. And now we go to the plane. We're going to fix the plane. There's no fixing to do, but we fixed the plane.
And they let you guys just walk up like that?
Well, no, they didn't actually. What they did was they put the Red Cross at a distance. These two hijackers, there's two hijackers, male and two women, okay? And they will blow up the plane if we just try to get close or if we do any shenanigans. Okay, so they put a Red Cross position within 100 yards of the plane, and they're looking down from the cockpit. And the Red Cross is supposed to frisk us, okay? And we wear mechanics, white overalls. Now, before we set out, I have this big argument with my brother. He was also an officer. I'm an officer, a team officer in the unit, and he's above us in a high role. And he says, Bibi, I'm coming too. I said, you can't come in. There are only 14 or 15 soldiers coming in. We can't have two brothers going in there, He said, okay, then you go out. I'll take care over your team. I said, they're my soldiers. You can't do that. He said, okay, so we'll both go. And I said, Yoni, do you understand what you're saying? I mean, think of mother and father. Think of what would happen if one of us gets killed. You know what he said to me? He said, Bibi, my life is my own and my death is my own. Well, I didn't buy it. I said, I'm not leaving and you're not going. Now, we had an argument. So we went to the commander of the unit and he sided with me. And Yoni's left behind. And there's a film of him, a documentary, because people took a film and you see him like a caged young lion. He's pacing back and forth. But we now go through the Red Cross thing, okay? We go on baggage trains, stop near the Red Cross thing, and they're frisking us. Okay, they're going to see that we're kosher, we're not armed. And each of us passes by them, and this is a French guy, okay? So he frisks us, comes to the boot, he feels that pistol, okay? And he says, Mon Dieu, you know what that means? My God. And I tell him in French, in the halting French that I had, God is great. And let me pass through. Okay. Now we climb on the wings, and I take one wing with my team. Another team takes the other wing, come from behind. We're ready to storm the plane. And that's great. Thank you. And the commander is on the tarmac. He's going to blow the whistle, and we're all going to punch into that plane simultaneously. Because if you knock on the door bounces out. I didn't know that until we did that. Everything's ready to go. And then one of my team, who was a security officer that we picked up at the airport, because these guys were very proficient. They're sitting on planes and they're really well practiced with pistols. So we took whatever we found in the airport, and I had one of them with me. And he says, Baby, you got to stop the operation. And I said, what happened? He said, well, you see, I flew in from London. and the plane was packed. And during the whole 4 or 5 hour flight, I tried to get to the John, to the toilet, and I couldn't make it. So the minute we landed, you guys plucked me over, and now I'm on this operation. I have to go. I said, you what? He said, I have to go. I said, big or small? He said, big. I said, I don't believe this. So I jump off the plane. I go to the commander, and I say, this guy has got to go. He says, now? I said, now. He said, big or small? I said, big.
He couldn't hold it?
I guess you call it a shitty story, but anyway,
Yeah.
he comes off the plane, and whatever. He relieved himself under the fuselage. He comes back up. The commander blows the whistle. We punch the door on both sides. The door flies out, and, they're shooting at us. And one shot got through a passenger's, she slumped over and we had to push her aside in order to get in. And two of the terrorists, the male terrorists, run into the front, and the other guys in the front got them. But we're afraid right now that they're going to blow up the plane, because they were going to blow it up. And as I rush in, the passengers say, that's her. Okay, and there's this woman sitting there with sitting there in one of the seats, and I grab her hair and I push and I get a wig. Okay, grab her again, and and I say, where are the charges? Where are the charges? And one of the security guards, another security guard that was in the front part of the plane, he says, Bibi, let me handle this. And he comes in, and I see his pistol is sort of cocked, and I can see the bullet in there. And his name was, by the way, Marco. That was his name, like Secretary of State, Marco. And I say, hey, Marco, don't do this. And he slaps her on the, on the face. And the bullet goes right through her into me and into my arm. And I felt like I was hit by a sledgehammer, And they took me off the plane. And I'm lying on the tarmac. This whole thing took 2 minutes, okay? The whole thing took 2 minutes. Killed the 2 terrorists, got the 2 women, terrorists. And I'm lying on the tarmac, and I've got this, this bullet in my arm. And I see Yoni running, my brother, right? He's running, towards the plane. And he really has this horrible, worried face, he's really tormented because he knows that his younger brother's been hit and lying over, on the tarmac. And he comes in, stands above me. He sees the red splash, on my white overalls, on my sleeve. And this big grin spreads on his face. And he says, you see, Bibi, I told you shouldn't go. So that was that. And then a few years later, they decided, the hijackers, that they'll go to Entebbe, Uganda. That's thousands of miles away. And that would be safe. But they didn't reckon that Israel would reach them. They didn't reckon that Yoni would reach them. So he was the commander of the unit. I was at MIT at the time already. I was out of the army. And he led his forces there, and they liberated the hostages, and there was one military casualty, him. So you ask how it was in the unit? It was great 5 years. And after that, it was a pivotal moment in my life. It changed my life. It directed it to its present course. But it was, for me, my parents, my younger brother, it was filled with agony. And that's why, when our soldiers fell, and we had this day, tragic day, we had 5 soldiers, young soldiers that fell. For me, it's not merely just the loss of these 5 souls, but it also harkens back to the agony that my parents had, that I had. And I always say that, you should use force very judiciously, because life is precious and war is hell. It really is. It's not a cliche, it's true. But sometimes you have no choice but to fight for your survival and for the future of your country. That's what my brother did. That's what I and my colleagues did in our military service. That's what brave Americans do and brave Israelis do very often. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here enjoying the life, the freedoms we have, the liberties we have. It's not free.
Mm-hmm.
It's not cost-free. And I hope young Americans who are listening to us can appreciate that because that is the lesson of the last century. If you're not prepared to defend freedom, you lose it.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stuff people complain about here compared to other countries is insane. We're so grateful to live in countries like this.
But you had generations of American servicemen and servicewomen who purchased that freedom for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't just, hide in Fortress America. There's a difference. You don't have to intervene in every conflict. You don't have to intervene in most conflicts. But you have to intervene in those conflicts that could jeopardize your national security, your freedom, your life. And that's what happened in Iran, because they were really threatening to develop the means of mass death and the means to deliver them to America that could have jeopardized the life of every American. And that's why I think a great thing has been done. And I salute the service, the pilots of both our countries and the fighting men and women of Israel. I took you know what I call this operation? There's a phrase in the Bible, they shall rise like lions. Okay? That's what they say of the people, the ancient Israelites. They shall rise like lions. So I called it Rising Lion. Rising Lion. And boy, our soldiers fought like lions. I mean, they are very brave, very dedicated, and very noble. And the last thing they want is to kill civilians. That's the last thing they want. And they take efforts that no other army has done on this thing. But the one thing they want to do is assure the future of our people. We haven't traveled. You know how old the Jewish people is? America is 250 years old next year, right? Right? Well, the Jewish people are 3,500 years old, all right? Remember Moses parting the Red Sea? That's about 3,500 years ago. So we have a great history of great tragedy and great triumph. And we're not going to let it end by the mad ayatollahs there who want to rain death on both of us. And we're not going to be influenced by the people who are taken under their sway and support this cult of death. America stands for life. Israel stands for life. America stands for liberty. Israel stands for liberty. But President Trump and I believe in a doctrine that says simply this: peace through strength. First comes strength, then comes the peace. And we've just demonstrated a lot of strength, and that's going to lead to a broadening of the peace in the Middle East and beyond. It's a great thing.
How would you ideally like to see it end in a perfect scenario?
Well, I'd like to see the people of Iran take charge of their own destiny. But in any case, I'd like to make sure that Iran never acquires nuclear weapons, and I think we've done a hell of a lot for that purpose. And I'd like to see peace with the remaining neighbors. I made peace with President Trump. I made peace with 4 Arab states in a month, And I'd like to see that peace expand to all our Arab neighbors. It's possible, because the actions that we did in breaking the Iranian axis changed the situation in quite a few of the countries around us. I think there are opportunities for peace there, and I intend to seize them.
We hope so, for sure.
Yeah, I hope you and President Trump can make peace in the Middle East. We're all praying for it.
We already have, and I'm sure we can again. And look, if your audience wants to have a good time,
Go to Tel Aviv.
Yeah, you can vouch for it.
Is that what you're going to say?
Isn't Tel Aviv?
Oh,
right?
yeah, Tel Aviv's lit.
Yeah, it's fun.
Tel Aviv's on fire. I haven't been in the summer. We went in February last time. So we were supposed to come 2 weeks ago.
Like 2 days before the bombing, right?
2 days before the bombing.
You can come back now.
Yeah.
You know what's happening in Tel Aviv? You know what's happening in the Israeli stock market?
What?
You know what a vertical wall is?
Just going up.
Stock is going up. You know why? because people saw great technology during the war, because people are coming to invest in Israel, because smart money moves very quickly. It's like it's the hottest economy right now. Well, the American economy is giving a good competition, but Israel right now is shooting up because people realize that we have a great free market economy, great technology, great innovation, great entrepreneurs. and the whole place is changing. Did you see Tel Aviv as a village or as a...
Similar to Miami, I
A
felt.
village? No. It's
Yeah, that's what it was a few decades ago.
Really?
It's like, it was very dilapidated. You say it's like Miami?
Yeah, pretty
Isn't
similar.
Miami on fire right now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Miami's.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
so Tel Aviv's on fire. And
Yeah, I
so's the
really
rest
want to
of
come
Israel.
again. I want to
So
come
you
in the
come
summer.
in.
We'll come in August.
Good.
Yeah.
The beaches are good.
Yeah.
And nightlife is good.
Yeah, we
And the
we
people
tested the
are friendly.
nightlife. We
Please
had a
come.
good time.
Yeah, we tested the nightlife
And
out.
in
No, you
Jerusalem,
tested
too.
Well, I hear about it, but...
Yeah. We'll handle that
Yeah.
for you. We'll make sure everything's
Well,
good.
invite Sarah and me. We'll come,
Awesome.
And I really mean it. I'm really inviting all your friends to come see the truth, and you'll be mesmerized and you'll be captivated. And you'll then say, how is it that we could believe this nonsense? It's like, who pulled the wool over our eyes, and how do we, tear that away? It's a different place, different people, a different country. It's a great place.
It is. We had a
Agree.
great time there.
And guess what? We love America.
Yeah.
So we love Americans too. So come over.
Well, we
What's this
appreciate
been?
you
Crazy.
giving us your time. We know you probably had an insanely busy day.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff more important than sitting down with two dummies here, but we appreciate it.
No. We had good conversations here, and we had very good conversations in the White House.
Awesome.
All right, Prime Minister, thank you so
Prime
much.
Minister
Thank you.
Netanyahu, thank you so much.
Thank you.